Go ahead and call the February board meeting of the Burleigh County Water Resource District to order. Wendy, take roll call, please.
Manager Mager.
Here.
Manager Mitchell.
Here.
Manager Reed.
Here.
Manager Smith.
Here.
Chairman Landenberger.
Here, we have a quorum. We will continue with the agenda this morning. I think first item up here, we'd like to introduce our newest board member, Brian. Welcome aboard. Do you want to maybe introduce yourself and maybe provide a little background?
Thank you. Yes. My name is Brian Mager. I moved to Bismarck back in 2013, graduated from college at UND, master's in water resource engineering, undergrad civil engineering. Got my PE in 2017, and I've worked private side and public side. I worked for Department of Water Resources, was then the Water Commission, and then now worked for NRCS. So wife and I have a little girl and another one on the way, and we are no plans on leaving Burleigh County, so here I am.
Yeah, well, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome aboard. Certainly, you may be overqualified, just kind of listening to you.
Not at the table here.
Yeah, no. Glad to have you, Brian. I think you have a lot to contribute, so.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, we can now move on to item 2 this morning, our reorg. If you have the packet in front of you there, on page 3, starting is the listing of portfolios for the board and various leads and alternates there. Obviously with Manager Jones, and now we have Manager Mager coming on. We could need to assign Brian some portfolios and maybe move a couple of others around, I guess. Any thoughts this morning? I know, Chuck, you mentioned maybe Burnt Creek. You'd be
Yep, absolutely.
interested in that one?
Yep.
Okay, maybe we'll put Brian as the alternate.
Yep.
Okay, we'll get that one. Wendy as Chuck as the lead for Burnt Creek and Brian as the alternate. And then McDowell Dam, I think, Chuck, we talked about maybe you moving up to lead.
Yep, I will take that one as well.
And I'll stay on as alternate for that one.
I think Chuck. Oh, never mind.
Yep. And certainly if there's others in here in this list that you guys want to, switch around, just let me know. We can discuss. Landowner complaints, I think we talked with Brian this morning. You'd be good with taking the lead on that one.
Yes.
And then we have Roger and Chuck as alternates still for those. Did you catch that one, Wendy?
Got it?
Okay. Let's see. The next page on page 4.
Ash Cooley.
The Ash Cooley alternate. I don't think, Brian, you'd have a problem with that one,
Nope.
right? And then Brookfield Estates Flood Control Project lead. Would that be okay with that one too?
Yep.
Okay. And then the last couple at the bottom there, these projects don't have a lot really going on at this point. Every once in a while we get a call where there's some things that we have to do, but it's pretty minor. But Country Creek third, we can list you as the alternate, and then Hogue Island as the lead.
Okay.
Okay. That look good with everybody? Anything else on the list? Okay. When did you capture all those? Okay. We'll probably need a motion to accept the, I don't know what we're calling this, the member portfolios as presented this morning.
Chairman, I'll move to approve the 2026 member portfolios as amended this morning.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Smith to approve the member portfolios for 2026 as presented this morning. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Ayes have it. Motion passes. Okay, move on to this morning, the approval of last month's meeting minutes. One thing I did notice, Wendy, too, maybe next month we had that special board meeting. Is that
Yeah, you'll get them next month.
next month? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you. Okay, any changes?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Manager Smith and a second by Manager Mitchell to approve last month's meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Moving on to the agenda this morning. Any updates or changes to the agenda?
Well, Mr. Chairman, just as our agenda is printed, we did have one bill that got added in.
Oh,
late,
okay.
So
Okay,
we can add it now, or I can just add it in the bills. You're-
okay, so you'll adjust that during the,
Okay.
or, yeah, you can tell us now if you want.
The additional bill is $1,575, brings the total bills to 52,708.01.
0.01, okay. All right, thank you. And I do have one item to add under new business for an item D, some 404 permits. Just been talking with Casey with Burleigh County about a couple boat ramps in Burleigh County that we're gonna probably assist Burleigh County with, so Casey can come up and discuss those and determine kind of next steps, so. Okay, with that, I'll look for an motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Manager Smith and a second by Manager Mitchell to approve the agenda as amended this morning. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Agenda is approved. Moving on to item 5 this morning, comments from members of the public, not on the agenda, but still under the business of Burleigh County Water Resource District. Not seeing any this morning. We can move on to McDowell Dam. I don't know, Dave, is there anything you want to update the board this morning? Good morning.
Good morning. Just a quick update. The consultant is working on the shower building renovation that we had discussed. They were last out there a couple weeks, I think 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, to do some measurements and to get things ready for the baseline for that. So hopefully by the time we talk next, the plans are wrapped up and maybe out for bid, fingers crossed.
Okay.
Knock on wood. And then last time we talked, we had mentioned, since we were so favorable in the bid for that tractor, that we were going to see if we could come up with a list of some accessories to get and still stay within that budget. If we had originally budgeted $120,000, we're just under $96,000 for the actual bid on the tractor. We have come up with just some basic items that we thought would be really helpful in the near future. A standard bucket. The tractor comes with a bucket with a grapple on it, so we can pick up trees and stuff like that as we remove trees, but just not a standard bucket. Standard bucket, a set of forks for it, so we can move things around, pallets and things like that, and then a PTO auger. All totaled, those 3 items are less than $7,000. So we're planning on adding those to the list, and it'll still stay obviously underneath the original budgeted amount. So, and then and I can't remember, I didn't get a chance to look before I came here in our CIP if the budgeted item for tractor accessories is in 27 or 28, but we'll reevaluate that and see if that number comes down.
Okay.
Because we're purchasing some things now, or if that gets eliminated completely.
Okay.
So just wanted to keep you updated on that. We should be receiving that tractor in the next week or so. So
Okay. Good.
just getting things ready on that, and we'll have that ready to go.
Sounds good.
Dave, what was your question on the CIP?
I couldn't remember if I think we had a budget item in there for tractor accessories.
That's in 28.
28. See, I knew I didn't think 27 didn't ring a bell for me. So between now and then, we'll reevaluate what kind of things we might need. So that number will more than likely come down.
Yep, good.
That was listed as 40.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't remember again on that one if it was 30 or 40. So, yep.
Good. Sounds good.
All right.
Anything else for Dave this morning?
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Okay, we can move on to easement negotiations. At this point, we do have an executive session at the end of our agenda today that we'll jump into with our legal counsel to discuss kind of where those easements sit this morning. We're still working on the one remaining. At this point, I don't know, Michael, anything else to discuss regarding the project or?
Just a couple things, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the DWR has requested planning forms for the various projects in the water resource districts and what you might be asking cost share funding for. I had Travis prepare one for, obviously, for McDowell Dam for the design side, as well as the, if you want to call it the annual one for the Missouri River Section 32 stabilization work. There's one that's kind of constantly in there. And then we created a separate one for the Chider-Jonas project, which will be ongoing. And that's the one that Travis is working on getting the actual web grants application completed for. And I think it's pretty well done. He's just going to need you to go in and authorize that submittal.
Okay.
So,
So are we doing one for the actual project for McDowell Dam too? For the water use plan? Or water
yeah, there's one in
state
there for the diversion plan.
Yeah?
That's
Okay.
that's been in there all the time. We're just updating it for
Okay, so
the
that one's
for the
been
current
there.
year.
It's not
Yeah.
a new one.
Yeah, so you're just updating the Apple Creek
Right.
refreshing,
Yeah,
okay.
just updating that form based on the current pricing and the current
which is good.
current
Yeah.
water needs.
Yep.
So, or the current funding needs.
Okay,
Now, we will by that one, and I'll work with Travis on this one, update that for the funding needs based on the Outdoor Heritage Fund grant monies not being there, so the numbers will change
great.
relative to that. Okay.
Okay, good. Thanks, Michael. Any questions on that? Okay, we can then move on to the Aero Club lease. I don't know if Dave or Chuck, any updates this morning on those items?
I think Dave would.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Chairman, the Aero Club lease is finalized. I don't know where the paperwork is from the president, but I'm sure he'll sign it and return it, email it back to us.
Okay.
With regard to Civil Air Patrol, I checked in with the Civil Air Patrol people. It'll be February 15th before they can sign the CAP lease, but they're in agreement with it. We waived the $500 maintenance fee and removed the indemnity language, but we kept the insurance language, so we have the same insurance
Okay.
levels.
You thought
So
by
it'll-
February 15th?
Yes,
Okay.
February 15th, so we should have that by that time.
And that, remind me again, that's how long of a lease these are now? These are
10-year.
10-year leases, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Dave. Any questions on that? Okay, now we can move on to item 7 this morning, financial reports. Manager Reed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, board members, as you've discussed, this early in the month doesn't allow for a turnaround time of the finalization of the prior month's financials. And so won't offer a full report on that this month. We'll offer one at the next meeting in March for January and also then for February at that March meeting. One item I just wanted to bring to your attention, we've been with our Bravera Wealth Money Market Fund. It has dropped another 0.09 of a point in this last month, and so it's currently at 3.66%, which is 3.41 effective when you subtract off the management fee of 0.25%. So just awareness, again, it's kind of paralleling the CD rates, so I don't know that CD would offer us any significant better
Right.
options, so.
This still gives us a lot of flexibility, being able to, move money if we have to. Sure.
Yeah, and for Brian's, we have a money market fund with a lot of our cash reserves in to fund future projects and emergencies as they arise. So I'm trying to just maximize the earnings on those funds.
Okay. Any questions for Dennis this morning? If not, we can move on to drainage permits and complaints this morning. I don't know, Michael, if there's any updates regarding Keelboat this morning, or,
No, nothing
No.
at this point.
and then how about the Hawk Tree?
Hawk Tree, we're waiting on the engineering analysis that's going in the new stormwater management plan submittal.
Okay.
Once
And-
once that's done, we'll look it over and see what they come
Casey.
up with,
Okay,
and then dismiss it at that point.
okay. And certainly, Brian, will probably get you maybe to have a good discussion with
Yep.
Michael and Travis, kind of get updated on those, and so you're kind of aware of it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we can move on to projects this morning. Michael, I think you probably have an update on Hogue Island too, this morning possibly?
Yeah, really, at this point in time on Hogue Island, we're continuing to monitor the movement, if any, out there. It's been fairly stable, but we did do some topographic work and provided that to Braun. Still waiting on their analysis as far as their boring out there and what their recommendations might be,
Okay.
so.
So that's for both, so this for Brian, see, there's two locations north of, is it north of Hogue Island a little bit, both of them?
Right, one's on the north end of Hogue Island and the other is just north of that. From a background scenario, the Burleigh County Water Resource District and State Water Commission back then have a 50-50 cost share agreement on the modification or O&M for Section 32 projects. As it turns out, the agreement states that the State Water Commission will do this, and then the district participates in 50%. But given staffing, timing, and everything else, they basically said to the Water Resource District, you guys just lead the effort, take it, and basically go through the web grants program, and we'll provide the 50% cost share for your engineering, admin, and everything else. So it's still a 50-50 cost share. It's just being done locally because it's more efficient.
Okay. Any questions or for Michael on the Hogue Island?
Michael, on that, have we talked about, I mean, they have a policy about retroactive payments. That's been,
The retroactive payment
Clarified.
on the Second 32 project, it's by agreement, so it's
it
actually
is, and so
separate.
they don't.
No,
Yeah.
there's not an issue with that one. I know that came up, and I think I answered it independently on the email.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay. Anything else? All right, hearing none, we can move on to Apple Creek, the U Mary slide. I don't know, Roger and Michael, if there's updates this morning on that.
yeah,
Lot
I
going
guess
on.
the quickest way to do that, I do not have what I was hoping to have this morning, partially just timeline. We had a meeting with DES and University of Mary. Unfortunately, Barr was not on the phone. Couldn't be there for a number of reasons. We are monitoring the inclinometers that we have. The inclinometers that we put in are showing movement. Not a lot, but there is movement. The inclinometers that were put in by Barr, with basically, one was in a similar location, one is actually uphill, or actually two that are uphill. And at the conclusion of their report, they were still showing some movement. So what we're talking to DES about, given the status out there, is there's no reason to fix the lower slope if the upper slope's still moving. That being said, what the request was to DES is say, hey, we want to continue to expand the work that the board is doing to continue monitoring. In other words, we do a takeover of Barr's equipment to move that forward and monitor that equipment through the end of our grant period, which is essentially August. And at that point in time, you can make recommendations as to what's going on. Barr has been very cooperative. Kate from Ron has contacted him. He's basically handing over all the information so that we can go out and actually measure it the same way they're measuring, so that we're actually measuring the same thing and don't get an anomaly because of the two different measuring aspects. So the only thing we do not have at this point, there'll be a change in SA 30 with special authorization for us to do the work on this project. DES does not have any more grant money available. They were gonna look into it, but they don't, so it'll be 100% board cost. But it'd be basically the taking over of that monitoring, a little bit of our oversight, but I don't know what that number is at this point. The concern, James and I talked about this too, is if we get to the end and it's still moving, then we have a whole nother conversation that has to occur. Now, one can hope that it's consolidated and it's actually stopped on the upper slope, then we just deal with the lower slope, which can't fix the lower slope if the upper slope's moving. So, a lot of conversations after the fact. The real critical point is that we continue that monitoring in the inclinometers to see if there's any movement going between now and whatever. The inclinometers, interestingly enough, I think some of the stuff is in your packet. It shows where the bank is at. The movement is still occurring at the same level as the original movement, even after they put the piles in. I know, Dennis, you had an email relative to what some of those numbers meant. They're basically the inclinometer numbers, and there's a depth measurement on there, and that's not the depth of the inclinometer, because they go all the way down to like 60 or 70 feet to get below the slide area. So I've got to go back and ask the question as to what that one number means, to your point.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mike, what do you mean when you say, we're measuring differently than what they're measuring?
Well, the scenario is that when whoever sets up the measuring and the next person comes out, are they on the top of the pipe? Are they somewhere down the pipe? Which piece of equipment are they using to put down the hole to measure, different things? Unless you're doing it the exact same way, you could come up with different results. It might show something that's not there.
So same technology, same
Yeah.
measuring system.
Right.
Just placement.
Right. It's a placement. What we found out on one of them is that they've been measuring, and then they had something happen to the top of the pile, and they had to cut, 6 inches off the top of the pile.
Okay.
Well, then now they're, the depth of measurement and depth of movement all changed, and that's all been recorded internally, so they're passing that information on to us. The one monitoring location, we talked about going in and doing a, BGC has a term for it. Basically, it's like hooking up a cell phone and you got daily monitoring. But that's obviously more expensive than going out and doing periodic monitoring. So they're kind of toying with the idea of, which one's least expensive, which is most efficient. Ultimately, there may be a permanent one put in, so we got daily monitoring, because I look at it this way. This is the fire alarm. It's moving a little bit, moving a little bit. It rains, it moves a little bit more. But if all of a sudden we get a significant movement, then it's kind of like, hey, we need to be prepared to enact the emergency action plan at that point in time, or at least be aware of something. So I think long-term, regardless, there will be a need to put permanent measuring equipment out there, which you could put in the inclinometers that you have in place today. It's just a matter of the equipment that ties to it and how it's managed.
Should we go some period of time with no movement, that does not necessarily mean that there wouldn't be movement in the future.
Correct. And what we noted in the last bar measurements on the inclinometers by the piers that were put in is they did reach that point of no movement, but it's 1 point. So I always say, 1 point does not make a trend.
Is there any acceptable movement, like down to the millimeter per year, or?
There is a scale where they call it, actually no movement and then slow and then moderate and whatever. And there's if you want to call it a grading scale. And if you're on the lower end of the scale and it's really, really slow, then you continue to monitor, but it's probably not a significant movement to where it's of concern. Once it gets.
The movement we've had, does it fall into that category?
The movements up until the last ones, yeah, they felt in the area that they were very similar to what was happening prior to the stabilization by record.
So
But again, it's a short record, short period of time.
Are we concluding that the physical modifications they've done out there has not been totally successful then?
At this point, I would say there's a concern, but we don't have definitive data at this point to do that. We had talked about, engineers, pardon the expression, we like to do things. You could actually dig up a pier or two and find out where they're at and say, are they where they were placed? And then you could actually do a density test and say that, the pile is 120 feet long, and you could test it, and that tester would tell you by density, well, it's only 100 feet long. So in other words, something happened to the bottom 20 feet. But obviously, that has a significant expense associated with it, and we didn't want to step into that realm until there's actually data that would dictate that's another next step.
See, Michael, how many springs have we gone through now, seasons with the project completed, the upper slope?
In essence, two.
Two.
We had one where it actually failed, and the second one where they came out and cleaned it up.
Okay, so this spring could be very telling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've stressed is that we need that additional monitoring to, hey, is it still going? Is it moving? I had noticed, and I'll just point this out, I sent out, Greg did the aerial flights. He sent out the information in side-by-side comparison, aerial photos, same location. I did notice, I'll call it the mini glacier. There's water coming out of the north side of the slope that's going down the hill. I would have presumed that water would have been captured by their under-drain system, but again, I don't know, and it's a visual and aerial, so you gotta go out and look and see what's boots on the ground to see what's going on.
And as far as our project with, Houston and the soils consultant and their recommendations, that'd be wrapping up here in the next couple months?
The scenario with that is that it was going to be monitoring into spring, and then the final report and stuff
so
relative to
summer,
mitigation would be summer and August.
Yeah, okay.
Now, again, we've had that discussion, that could change based on what we find.
Right.
Do you do a project to mitigate the lower slope? If the lower slope's just, again, depending upon the level of movement, if the lower slope's moving but it doesn't present the high risk of the whole, the catastrophic collapse, if you want to call it that, then there'd be a different approach to it than a physical mitigation project. But again, that's the reason we're studying and monitoring.
Yeah, a real risk is a catastrophic failure, right? And so
Yes.
at some point, I mean, are we able to say, okay, the risk of catastrophic failure is, essentially nil, and a little movement each, couple 3 inches here and there is okay, because it just basically erodes away through the channel flows, and we're not, causing any artificial rise of the Apple Creek, and so is there a thought process of that analysis going forward?
Yes, we've had discussions, and I think that's, the complication is when the upper slope's still moving, or if the upper slope's still moving.
That's
Or
where
if
the
the
fit-
upper slope is moving to where there's a risk associated with it.
Right.
If it's just the lower slope, the recommendation could go anywhere from going out and doing a whole bunch of dirt work and additional piles to stabilize the lower slope, and/or, as your point, just continue to monitor it and see what the status is and react accordingly.
Because the other
Well-
piece of this too, which we've done now, is trying to determine, down, what happens with the creek if there is a catastrophic failure,
Right.
and who is affected, and then working with Mary to understand how do we get information out to the public in a more efficient way.
Right?
And I think that a lot of those steps have been taken care of, right? I mean,
We have looked at the emergency action plan. I've got probably an 80% draft. We'd have to step back with Mary, because at one point in time, we were saying, hey, if it's stable, we don't need to finish that, but we probably are gonna have to step through and clean that up for the, if you wanna call it, the notification of issues.
okay.
I will say, though, and we did check, and Casey's aware of this as well, we do have inclinometers on the other side, on Sibley Drive, and there's no movement over there.
Yeah,
That's stable,
that's good.
which is, a positive.
Say, Casey, regarding kind of continued monitoring from the county, I guess I just wonder, I know you guys are flying that with a drone fairly often. I don't know what kind of, plans you guys have in place to continue to do that, and then, I don't know. Morning.
Morning. Yep, we plan for at least once a month. If we're seeing something occurring, we might go to every 2 weeks. But otherwise, it's still just once a month, be able to fly that. And there's other slides we monitor every month. And
Sure.
Greg goes out, and that way we have visual documentation so we can see, like the River Road landslide, we could see there was breaks starting to happen on the top. You just never know when it's going to let loose, but that way we can kind of try to prepare as much as possible.
Okay, so from that standpoint, that's the plan moving forward for a while, is that you guys be on maybe a monthly basis, be flying that with a drone again to kind of monitor?
Oh, probably for the next 5 to 10 years easily.
Okay. That's good to know, though. At least we got some eyes on it. And,
Yep.
yeah, got some. And I don't know who set that program up, but they all kind of compare several months, so you can kind of see past and. current.
Greg in our office sets that up.
That's pretty nice to see. You can-
Yep.
Same angle, kind of same
Yeah,
position.
The flights are taken, and basically the photos are taken essentially in the same location, so you can compare them. And you can go back and actually compare from the very beginning of this, so you can pick a date and do the comparison
Yeah,
between the
it's
two,
kinda
even
nice.
back before everything was restored and now after it's restored. I find the most telling is that if I look at them and I know what the prior month was, and I go to this month and I said, do I see any differences? In this one, I noticed I call it the glacier coming out of the hill. Well, it's the spring, it's just the water coming out, and as that water comes out, it freezes. So you can see the line down the hill of the,
Yeah.
of the ice.
We've seen that water, during the summer, you see it, it just evaporates
Right.
faster, so we've always said, at least the water's coming out, because if it's not, then we're getting a real problem then.
It's better to come out and go down the slope than it is to go into the slope and into the soils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, Casey.
Yep.
The other thing I think is maybe continuing to think about visiting with University of Mary, and just kind of what, obviously this is their property.
Right.
Down to some point, near the creek there, so just continue to understand what their take's gonna be on this, what their approach is gonna be moving forward, so.
yeah, and I can tell you with the DES has done 3 extensions on the University of Mary's grant, and their thought process right now is to close that out for various internal reasons and the grant application. University of Mary does not have Bar under contract to do any additional work at this point in time. I think once we get to a point to where the data has an indication, left or right, so to speak, of which way we're going, then the conversation with University of Mary needs to take place. Because I believe that conversation should take place before the report's finished.
Yeah.
It should be based on the data and direction as to where it's going.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions this morning? Okay, thanks, Michael. Yep. Okay, we can move on to item 11 this morning, old business. I don't see Mitch here this morning, so I don't know if there's been an update. Have you heard anything, Michael, on the CRS or any?
Only thing on the CRS is I know that there are letters coming out as far as the violations and the corrective action.
Yeah.
So,
Still
and,
working on
and there
that.
will be need for corrective action in a number of different areas, so that'll have to be discussed and addressed.
Okay.
I can tell you, Mitch called me yesterday, I might as well just share this. There's been an interest in purchasing the property that the Water Resource District purchased up on Hogue Island. And somebody was looking at, hey, can we build on that? And obviously the answer is no, because when the district purchased that property, they put a restriction that there'd be no structures. So he will relay that to the individual who expressed interest.
Okay. Item B there, I don't know, Michael, if there's anything I haven't really heard. I believe the petition was sent in to Garrison from Burleigh County, but
Yeah, I have not heard on the timing of any public hearing. at
It was
this
on
point.
it was on the county commission's agenda last Monday night, whenever
oh,
it was.
Okay,
I didn't watch it though.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't hear of any additional discussion.
okay.
But I think it's in Garrison's hands because they'll be the ones that are setting up the hearing. And that hearing, my understanding, will be in Bismarck.
Oh,
So anybody from Burleigh County can come and participate and present at that time.
So next, so they have the hearing and then Garrison decides as a board whether
Yes.
or not they want to, and if they
Right,
say no, then that's where then the potential next steps legal-wise could come
right.
from Burleigh
What
County.
I'm on to is as the hearing information is gathered, and of course, obviously, they're not probably going to make a decision at the hearing.
Right.
But they'll gather the information, they'll get advice internally, and then they'll bring it up before the board, and then they'll take action. And then Burleigh County has the option to take that to district court if they choose.
Okay. So one thing I was going to mention this morning is that Commissioner Woodcox did ask me if we're going to be present at that hearing and provide some testimony. So I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts this morning on what that should be, but obviously we've been involved with Garrison. We've applied for funding through Garrison. I think as a board, we've discussed what we feel is there's definite benefits to, being involved with Garrison to, having a seat at the table, having a voice, understanding what's going on, and there's a lot of, I think, economic return to Burleigh County that's just not as tangible as getting grant funding, but, you just realize between contractors and vendors and engineering companies and everybody else that works on projects across the state that's funded through Garrison Conservancy District, some of those tax dollars are coming back to Burleigh County in other ways. So I think we've got on record of supporting that they stay in, the Garrison Conservancy District. I don't know if we need to be at that hearing again. I don't know, Dennis, if you've got any thoughts too this morning, but I think we've made our points already. But certainly, I don't know if the Missouri River Joint Board, Roger, if you guys have had any further discussions. I know they came out in support as well.
Right.
But-
I don't know if Wade plans on being at that.
I would venture to say, based on the Missouri River issues and the funding that's provided, I don't know that it's going to be a detailed statement of, hey, here's the benefits to Burleigh County, but I would suspect that there would be a statement relative to support of Burleigh County remaining with the C district.
Yeah.
It's
So,
not the best testimony when they're not in.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I should say
right.
that Morton County's not in.
Morton's
Right.
not in.
Right.
So, and I can even remember in the 80s when, it was on the ballot and, I remember voting for it. And so Burleigh County citizens voted for it. So Burleigh County commissioners, are electing to get out of it. Is there not any kind of requirement then that the citizens, maybe this public hearing is their opportunity, but it was voted in by the public. So that confuses me a bit, that the commissioners are able to just say, we don't want to do it anymore. Because it's not really Burleigh County money, it's the citizens' money. They voted to say, yeah, some very small percentage of my tax base is gonna go toward garrison diversion membership. So,
Yep.
how does all that work? I mean,
Good question.
I was going to ask Dave a question on the legal proceedings. It's always a black box to me. So this hearing that would be held by a garrison diversion, it would be it's outside of the court system, if I'm understanding correct. But is testimony and information gathered in that hearing held by a garrison diversion, does that ultimately, if it goes to a district court setting, does that ultimately get to be part of the record, or is it wiped clean and a district court starts over anew?
That's a good question. It depends on what the parties want to do. Any information or testimony given, one would think could be a part of the record, and I would say it would be part of the record if ultimately it's litigated. So yes, I think testimony given, one could assume that would end up in litigation in a very peripheral way. It isn't, I think both parties would take a look at it to see which testimony supports theirs. But as a matter of public record, yes, I think it would be a part of the public record and the court record. It's going to take the parties to initiate that and put it into the record. The court isn't going to put it in right away. Depends on what the parties want to do. The district, the county, they're going to present their case as best they can. And that might mean pulling some testimony that was given on one side or the other.
Okay.
And just
And I ask because I think we can all maybe see where the garrison diversion is going to end up on that. You know, it's going to be denied, and then if Burleigh County cares to carry it forward, it'll go into a court system. That's why I asked. You know, is
Yeah.
it worth our time even to be there? Because I think we can, again, I can read the tea leaves. I don't know if anybody else will agree with me, but I think it's going to be a no.
Mr. Chairman, and Dennis, just to follow up on that, as the chairman has said, the board has already created and passed a resolution in favor of the district. So it was deliberated by this board, it was acted upon, and a resolution was passed. So I think the board's position is fairly clear. If the board wants to have somebody at the hearing and testify, great. If you don't, I think there's no ambiguity as to where the board is on this. Sure. So it's a discretionary act on the part of a board member if you want to show up.
Yeah. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, and to Dennis's point, I've had a number of discussions, obviously, in the background. It's my understanding the Barnes County case, when it went to the Supreme Court, or the district court, or however it went, specifically looked at the testimony that was provided at the hearing to formulate their decision.
No, they did. Okay.
Yes. So I think it's a critical component of the factual basis of the Conservancy District's decision that would be reviewed at the upper level. And again, to Dennis's point, this board has taken its position. It's not like you have to go into factual details and have a debate of it. That'll happen at the hearing between the parties, so.
Another legal question to this, Dave. So if we already have that resolution, can Garrison submit that at the hearing as, okay, we received a resolution a couple months ago from Burleigh County Water Resource District, you know, supporting that Burleigh County stay in?
Oh, that could be. I don't know whether it's a matter of the Conservancy District presenting that. I think it would gather information from every source in its decision-making. You know, and again, both parties would use as much of any positive argument they can coming from whatever source.
Yeah.
So again, it would be a part of that record, I'm sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Hear any updates, we'll let the board know. Okay, move on to new business this morning. We kind of already discussed these, but on your packet on page 26 through 30 are these submittals that we talked about this morning on the water use survey and then the state water plan submittals. So there's some additional information there on kind of what Travis and Michael have been working on and submitting. Item C there, Michael, maybe you want to just kind of update kind of what you have and what you're maybe looking to do with some of these.
Very simply, way back when the board was making the decision to empty its records or scan its records, you had agenda books from basically, I forget the dates now, help me, Wendy.
2008 through 2013.
Right, actually from 2014 on,
Yep.
they were in this back room back here, and they needed the back room for voting equipment or whatever, so all those records were taken out and they were scanned. And they're online, you can check them. Obviously, I've been around for a while, so in cleaning my records at the office, moving towards another stage in career, I located the agenda books from 2008 to 2013. So what I'm doing is I'll provide those to Wendy. Wendy can have them scanned, and then you can put them in the record and you have stuff. I do have stuff prior to 2008, but it's all paper records. There were no agenda books at that point in time. So I'm assuming that those records, whatever may or may not already be with the board files. The other ones that were back here, because somebody said, well, we're going to throw those out, and of course, being the pack rat that I am, I said, no, you're not. They're actually 1950 aerial photos, and they're the 12 by 12 actual prints. I no longer need them. I've not really done anything to them since I've gotten them, but the discussion of they are historic, obviously, by age, and this board has the authority to pass them off to the State Historical Society. What they do with them, whether they scan them and put them on record. DWR already has many, many years of scanned records and aerial photos. I don't know that the 1950 ones from Burleigh County are in there, but in this case, if they were scanned, they could be. So those records will just be provided to Wendy. Wendy will take them to the Historical Society, and I'll be polite, they'll be out of my office.
You know, those 1950, are they like the old SCS photos that used to get scanned?
No, they're the actual, well, they were probably SCS photos, but they were actual prints. They're
Right,
full-scale
right.
prints.
But, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the archives already has a set of these, but I'm not sure how many of those sets they would print back in the day.
Right.
But,
I think the scenario, if you hand it to them and they have them,
right.
it's records disposal, basically, if you want to look at it that way.
Any thoughts on that this morning? I'm wondering, Wendy, do you have a contact or a phone number that we can call and just find out if they would want these? Or if they already have a set, then do we just,
I can see if I can find it.
okay. Dennis, you got that?
You're talking the aerial prints?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually went back, and I don't know if I can see it, if I can find it. I was talking to somebody at the archives about, when we were looking at Grass Lake and the decision process. So I've got a contact up there for those records. DWR has passed down records, obviously, and you can request those records, and they'll give you access to them with a link. So I think if I contact that person, they probably have an idea what,
So
Process might be.
these aerial photos, they cover the entire county?
yes.
And so, yeah, as I'm thinking about this, I know in Ward County, the same thing. They had 1938 photos that the Department of Water Resources scanned in for a board member up there. And so I got to believe they have these as well,
Okay.
you know, but again, I think, Wendy, I think it would be the Department of Water Resources that would be the potential holder there. I don't know, Brian, if you ever saw that when you were up there.
I know there was a scanning effort underway. I don't know exactly where they're at and what they have, but I know it's online. I can take a look and see what they have posted for Burleigh County.
Yeah, they might have them online, yeah, that's right.
Right. that'd be
Yeah,
good.
they've got their, you can look at any particular
map
location. They've
service
got
already.
map service, and they've got
Yeah.
multiple different aerials over the years.
As far as like the 2008 through 2013 records, I'm all for it too. I'm a pack rat as well. I think they're, can be valuable to look back at and say, okay, this was decided back then. Here are the minutes, and I think it's valuable.
Yeah, I think so too. So we mentioned flash printing as an option. Have you worked with them before on something like this, Wendy, before?
No, I think we've done all our scanning.
Okay, so are you comfortable that if we,
I'll have
It
to
might be
see
a lot.
what's in there.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that's like a regular page, we can scan.
Yeah, most of them are just the standard agenda books, 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, then it
So-
won't be a problem.
is it like a couple boxes of, 4 boxes?
Isn't one of those boxes the pictures though?
No. Well, they're the smaller boxes, because I didn't put them in a regular paper box. I forget what they are, but there's 3 smaller boxes, 1 larger, and then the big photo box.
I mean, the other thing, back when we first did the weed scan, we used record keepers for a while there.
Yeah, I think you're
And so
right.
that's another, I mean, that's what they specialize in. My concern is that you get these paper copies, Mike, I don't know if they're stapled, that really gets to be a pain, you know?
No, they're the spiral bound, or not the spiral bound, but the,
3-ring binder.
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's another option.
Yeah, the
Right.
other aspect that I would recommend is when they scan them, they should scan them with OCR so that they're searchable.
Yeah.
I actually ran into that scenario where I was posting in another water resource district on their website, and the document that I sent in was a standard PDF. And the IT person, because of the accessibility for handicap, et cetera, had to go back in and change them to scan, and then there were certain photos that they had to revise or edit in order to be usable by the, to put on the website for handicap, so
Yeah,
it's
we
kind
might
of,
have to look into having somebody do that.
yeah.
Yeah. Record keepers, like I said, is what we used before.
So, would you want to tackle that
Yeah,
for
I'll
next
call
month and
record
then
keepers.
report back and then, so where are the documents now? Do you have them or do you?
No, they're in our office, Sean hasn't delivered them yet.
Okay, so I assume they're fine there for another
Oh, yeah.
month or two until
Yeah.
we get this figured out with.
They've,
Okay.
they've been there, they've been with me since 2008, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Brian, you'll look into the photos and just see
Yep.
if they already
Yep.
have them. I guess if they already have a scan set, I hate destroying things like that, but it's just, we could maybe call state archives to see if they have an interest in keeping something like that, or.
You know, one of the things that we've run through, and I think you actually have, and I know the county has, a disposal record. Anything that's of such and such an age gets passed on or disposed of. And I think in this case, you pass it to the national, or the state archives, and they do with them what they want. Again, you know, it's kind of like giving them to somebody else. If somebody else throws them away, you didn't. You know? So,
Yeah. Okay. All right,
okay,
good.
thank you.
Yep, thank you, good discussion. Okay, next item we added, under new business is the 404 permits for a couple boat ramps, in Burleigh County. So I'm gonna have Casey come up and just kind of give us a summary of what we're looking at doing here and kind of the whys a little bit, but. Morning, Casey. Again.
Morning. Forgot to introduce myself last time. Casey with the Burleigh County Highway Department. So I don't know how much it's been followed, but our county board has decided to not contract with the City of Bismarck Parks and Rec anymore and form their own Parks and Rec and department, have their own person doing that. They're currently still in the process of hiring somebody to run that area. So there's still day-to-day stuff that has to be done. One of those day-to-day items is just the dredging of general maintenance at Kimball and Knifel boat ramps on there, and a 404 permit has to be prepared for it. So as the highway department that gets outside of our actual highway area, we said, well, really, the Water Resource District does a lot of that type of stuff. They're very, very familiar with all of the same requirements that we're familiar with. And we can ask the Water Resource District if they're willing, just for this year, be able to get those permits ready. So in April or May, when everything's kind of opens up, they're able to go out there, get the dredging done, get that completed. So it's kind of a short-term solution until they can get somebody in place. Then that person will continue to do that in the foreseeable future going from there.
Yeah, so at this point, it's just to kind of cover the gap here for maybe this year, maybe next year, depending on where things sit. Do they have a timeline where they're hoping to get kind of a county park board going again? Park district?
The park district, they already have that portion formed. It's just hiring the person
okay.
who's gonna do the day-to-day.
Gotcha.
And I know they're getting the job description ready to advertise this year. They wanna get them in place hopefully sooner than later. It's just the interim part of, we just gotta get these things ready.
Yeah.
And Bismarck Parks and Rec was very nice, sent over their permits from previous, and it has all the drawings in there, the expected quantities, so it probably wouldn't take too terribly long to get those ready.
Okay. So visiting with Casey about this earlier, at this point, we'd probably look at, doing this for them for this year. And I would guess we would look at hiring Houston to look into those. I'm sure they fill these out on a fairly regular basis. There's not a lot of effort there. I know I've filled these out before too, so it's.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we've done a number of, both for a lot of the public ramps that we've done in the various areas. So, yeah, my point, Casey, I was gonna ask if they provided the prior records. A lot of times the drawings is just a matter of updating the permit and putting it out and saying, it's a similar, maintenance that was done prior year, but you still have to get your LOP, your letter of permission from the Dakota
Yep.
to do that on a regular basis. So, yeah, we could very easily take that on, if the board wants, and just pass the information over. And we'll start on that right away, because it's nice to have them in place before the season starts.
Yeah.
We would have to probably do one check for, after ice out, before actually submitting in case there's a, site revision, but we can get them prepared and ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it's okay with the board, I have a copy of those emails. I can forward it to Mike. Then he has the records from the past on that, and kind of has all the drawings and everything included.
Okay, so we'll probably need a motion, just because they'll be expending some funds that probably weren't on the original budget, but so we'll probably need a motion to take this on and work with Houston to get those 404 permits
Yeah.
submitted.
And with the funds, if they're tracked, it sounded like Commissioner Munson didn't have an issue of Parks and Rec then reimbursing the Water Resource District
maybe-
to be able to do that.
Keep track of that separately, independently, Mike.
Yeah, that was one of the things, Wendy, and you and I will probably have to talk about when we create a new project number, if there's a separate one we want to create for this, for that task. Okay? And then we, like you said, we can invoice accordingly, and then if it comes back to Park District, they roll it back through, so it's totally independent of other projects.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, if it's only a few thousand, I'm not sure what that'll take, Michael, but might have more effort on the back end trying to figure all that out than just, I mean, it's still tax dollars,
Yeah.
going to a water resource related.
It's only an hour of Mike's time. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll probably need a motion for that this morning.
Also move.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Smith to assist the Burleigh County in the application process for 404 permits for 2 boat ramps in Burleigh County and the hiring of Houston Engineering to assist in that process. Okay. Wendy, take roll call vote, please.
Manager Magnus,
Aye.
Manager Mitchell,
Yes.
Manager Reed,
Yes.
Manager Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Lineberger.
Yes, motion passes. Good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Casey. Casey, then you'd mentioned this other item too. We can certainly discuss more
Sure.
down the road, but maybe give a quick update on that one too, just if you can.
Yep, had another request for the annual maintenance program that comes into I think it was Knifel boat ramp. And it's a requirement from the Corps that says, we hear the Corps is, you're transferring basically from Parks and Rec doing it on an everyday basis to the new department. So they want to be able to do an update. They want that requirement by March 31st of this year. That's going to be before somebody's in place. And there's quite the checklist that comes with that. It has expenditures, revenues, ADA certification. There's quite a few items like water, sanitary, sewer, your CIP program for the year. Going through that, I did talk with Dave Mayer and asked, can I get a copy from the previous year of what you submitted on that? Because I don't think it's going to change a whole lot.
Right.
On those parts, that is also really outside the highway department area that we work on. And we're just currently looking at options. We didn't know if the Water Resource District, since you're more familiar with that, it's kind of the temporary fill-in for a
gap.
short time.
Right.
Or we were also looking at contacting other Parks and Rec departments and see if we could just hire them maybe on a short-term basis. Here's the previous information. Go through there. I know talking with Dave, they already did the ADA review last year, and they had their expert consultant come in, laid out all the different areas, and because I thought that'd be a pretty heavy lift, and he thought that'd be not as much because that was done last year on there, and I was, oh, that's a good point. And really what you're looking at is you're certifying, signing it off. And he said there's just not a lot of facilities in that area, so that kind of helps you out on that part. So it was just for your consideration. Going from there, we're just trying to help get that lined up.
Okay. So I assume, what are you guys' thoughts, but I was assuming we could probably help assist with that process as well. If it's a kind of a one-time gap coverage
Yeah.
until that gets set up for next year.
When you say we, who do you mean?
The Burleigh County Water Resource
Like
District.
individual board members or?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh, well, I think we could probably look at maybe having Houston review those documents again and look at that.
I don't know that I know what they look like, so I'm not sure what we're talking about, but,
Yeah, we received the blank forms, and it just said, it was one page that said expenditures and revenues, and we were, well, do we have to pull all this from the auditor's office and try and get all that information? That's why, talking with Dave to see the past report, that will help inform better going through there.
We can wait and see what we get from
Yep.
Dave and then discuss again next month.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't need a decision right now. It was
Yeah.
just consideration.
Yep.
Is all in. We're contacting others also just to see what's possible.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay, let's do that.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, too, on the ADA stuff and the compliance, it's very similar, or I shouldn't say similar. It's the same type of reporting that you had for McDowell Dam. Here's the things you have that are deficient, here's the things that have to be, improved. I would suspect from the Burleigh County Park scenario, that list is rather light. And a lot of the stuff has probably already been addressed or is in process of being addressed, so.
It was talking with Dave. That's part of their review last year.
Yep.
So you're really just recertifying it.
Right.
Is what he had said. But we found out yesterday. So we've been trying to play a lot of catch up and try and help get it figured out here real quick. And we just had the directive. We're very busy with roads. We need to focus on that, not the other portions. So.
And there's not a lot of structures out at these
Yeah,
facilities.
it's not like the shower facility in
No.
McDowell Dam that has to be done.
Picnic
There's
areas,
probably some implementation things that were in that program, but I don't suspect
Yeah, there's not
major.
much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll work with Casey when we get these documents from Bismarck Parks and Rec, and then we can kind of bring it to the board next month and
Yep.
have a further discussion.
Yeah, and if a different park entity from another government entity does it, then it really just kind of goes away at that
Yep.
point, so,
Okay.
all right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Casey. Yep. Okay. That's it for new business this morning. We can move on to additional information on item 13. We got information available upon request for a couple replats and plats and subdivisions in Burleigh County. If you want to look into those, you certainly can. Wendy would have that information for you. We do have one temporary water permit application for Knife River on page 32 of your packet. Pretty straightforward. I don't think anything really to discuss or comment on that one. So if there's no other discussion, we can move on to approval of bills.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I mentioned the additional $1,575 bill for, it's an SRF payment. For
Apple Valley.
Apple Valley, thank you, for checking on that. So, the summary of bills are listed on page 33 of your packet. Pretty short list, again, due to the early part of the month meeting that we're having today. One thing I'll note is Parks and Rec is fairly large compared to their normal in that, but that includes $14,000 in roof repair from that hail event last summer. So that artificially raised that one. We do take note that we are paying our dues to the Missouri River Joint Board in the amount of $2,000. With that, I guess, unless there are any questions, I'd move for approval of payment of bills in the amount of $52,708.01.
Okay.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Smith to approve this month's bills. Any discussion or questions this morning? Hearing none, Wendy, take roll call vote, please.
Manager Mager.
Yes.
Manager Mitchell.
Yes.
Manager Reed.
Yes.
Manager Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Landenberg.
Yes, motion passes. Bills are approved. Okay, moving on, the additional information in your packet there is this kind of the follow-up for the bills and additional information for those. I think at this point in the agenda, we would now move into our executive session. So we're gonna close our monthly board meeting, and I will entertain a motion to hold an executive session pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 44-4-19.2 to discuss negotiation strategy with our attorney related to easement acquisitions in the McDowell Dam project. The board has provided notice of this executive meeting in its agenda for this month. So I would not entertain that motion to adjourn this month's regular meeting and move into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion by Manager Smith and a second by Manager Mager to move into, or, close this month's meeting, regular meeting, and move into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.